The announcement hit the air like thunder. Attention passengers. Flight 107 to New York has been canceled due to severe weather conditions. Groans filled the crowded terminal. People shouted into their phones, fought for new bookings, begged attendants for answers. But Clara Bennett just stood still. Her suitcase leaned against her knee, rainwater dripping from the edge of her coat. She wasn't angry, she was empty. It had already been the longest day of her life. She'd lost her job that morning, laid off with 2 months of unpaid overtime still hanging over her. Her boyfriend of 3 years had stopped answering her calls 2 weeks ago, and now, even the flight home had decided to betray her. She pressed a hand to her forehead and sighed, whispering to no one. Of course, why wouldn't this happen tonight? The storm outside rumbled, lightning flashing against the airport windows. She looked around for somewhere to sit, but every seat was taken. Every voice sounded the same, angry, tired, desperate. Except one. He stood at the far end of the terminal, tall, composed, almost too calm for the chaos around him. His coat was perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable, his phone pressed to his ear. He wasn't just handsome, he had presence. The kind of man who didn't ask for attention, but drew it anyway. Clara couldn't help noticing him, and she wasn't the only one. A few women nearby whispered his name like a secret. That's Ethan Cross, isn't it? One said. The CEO, the billionaire, another whispered. Clara turned away. Rich people, she thought. Even stranded, they never looked lost. She focused on her phone, trying every hotel app she could. Every result came back the same, fully booked. Come on, she muttered, just one room. Then a voice behind her, smooth, low, confident, said, They're all full, I've tried. She turned around, it was him, Ethan Cross. He looked even more disarming up close. Dark hair slightly damp from the rain, a faint stubble along his jaw, and those eyes, steady, warm, but shadowed by something deeper. You tried, Clara said softly. I did. Apparently, billionaires don't get special treatment in thunderstorms. That's comforting. He smiled faintly. You look like you've had a rough night. You have no idea. A moment of silence stretched between them. Then he said, There's one hotel left with rooms, the Grand Regency. I just booked the last suite. Clara forced a polite smile. Lucky you. Maybe, but it has 2 beds. Meaning, if you don't mind company for one night, I'm willing to share the room. She stared at him. You're offering a stranger to share a hotel room. You can say no, he said with a small shrug. Or you can sleep on that bench over there, your call. He started to walk away. She bit her lip. Something in his tone wasn't flirtatious. It was practical, maybe even kind. And she was cold, soaked, and had nowhere else to go. Wait, she called. Fine, just one night. He smiled, a little triumphant curve at the corner of his mouth. One night. The Grand Regency looked like another world. Warm light, soft jazz, gold reflections on marble floors. Clara felt out of place the moment she stepped inside. Ethan handled the check-in smoothly, his tone polite but clipped. The receptionist's eyes went wide when she realized who he was, stammering as she handed him the key card. Penthouse suite, Mr. Cross, top floor. Penthouse, of course. When the elevator doors opened, Clara's breath caught. The suite was beautiful, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the stormy skyline, soft cream carpets, a velvet couch, and yes, 2 separate beds. This is ridiculous, she whispered. Would you prefer the bench at the airport? No, she said quickly. This is fine. He chuckled under his breath. Thought so. She dropped her bag on the smaller bed, brushing her damp hair back. He took off his coat and loosened his tie. His movements were graceful, precise, like a man used to control. They exchanged a few polite sentences. Then, silence. The storm outside filled the room, lightning flashing against the glass. Clara sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through her phone. Ethan was by the window, typing on his laptop, face lit by the screen's glow. Minutes passed, then she sighed. "You're really going to work right now." "Work keeps me sane," he said without looking up. "Even at midnight?" "Especially at midnight." She watched him for a moment. "You don't strike me as the type who needs more money." He smiled faintly. "It's not about money, it's about not thinking." Something in his voice made her heart pinch a little. "Not thinking about what?" He looked up, eyes darker now. "Things I can't change." The silence after that was heavier than before. An hour later, the power flickered. The city lights dimmed. The thunder rolled closer, shaking the windows. "Perfect," Clara muttered. "Now the lights too." Ethan stood and searched for candles. He found 2 in the minibar drawer, lighting them with a match. The room glowed softly in gold and shadow. "Better?" he asked. "Romantic," she teased, "for a stranger." "You're the one who agreed to stay," he replied, a smile in his voice. She laughed, and it surprised both of them. They talked again, longer this time. About her job, her family, his travels, the places he'd seen but never really enjoyed. "Everyone wants to be you," she said, "but it doesn't sound like you're happy." "You get used to pretending," he said quietly. "Pretending what?" "That success fills the silence." Clara felt something ache inside her. For all his charm, there was pain under his voice, an emptiness money couldn't buy away. He looked at her with quiet curiosity. "What about you? What are you running from?" "A broken engagement," she said, forcing a laugh. "He said he wanted space. I guess he found enough of it to fit someone else in." Ethan's expression softened. "Then he's a fool." "Maybe, or maybe I'm just forgettable." "I doubt that," he said. The air shifted. The storm outside faded to a whisper. For a moment, it felt like the world had paused. Just the 2 of them, the candlelight, the heartbeat of silence. Clara swallowed hard. "You should get some rest, Mr. Cross." "Ethan," he corrected. "Ethan," she repeated softly. He smiled. "You should rest too, Clara." But neither of them did. They stayed awake, trading stories and half-truths, laughter mixing with quiet glances that lingered too long. At some point, their hands brushed. Neither pulled away. "If this were a movie," she said, "this would be the part where something happens." He smiled gently. "Then it's a good thing life's not a movie." "Isn't it?" she whispered. For a moment, he looked at her like she was the only real thing left in his world. The kind of look that burns. The kind of look that shouldn't happen. The clock read 2:47 a.m. The storm had quieted, but inside the room, a different kind of storm brewed. Ethan sat by the window, staring at the skyline. Clara lay on her bed, wide awake, her thoughts tangled between exhaustion and something dangerously close to longing. "You're still up," she whispered. "Can't sleep," he said. "Never could." She turned slightly toward him. "Bad dreams." "Bad memories." "You sound like a man with ghosts." He smiled faintly. "I am." The tone of his voice made her sit up. "You don't have to tell me, but," she hesitated. "Sometimes saying it out loud helps." He was silent for a long time, then quietly. "I lost someone, a long time ago." She didn't speak, just waited. "Her name was Isabel. She was my fiancée. I was so busy building a company that I forgot to build a life with her. By the time I realized, she was gone. A car accident, on a night I promised I'd be home." His voice broke on the last word, and the pain in it was so raw, Clara's eyes stung. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He looked at her, eyes shadowed but soft. "You remind me of her sometimes, not in how you look, but in how you listen." Something inside her chest fluttered painfully. She wanted to say something comforting, but words felt too small. So she crossed the room, sat beside him. "You can't keep blaming yourself forever," she said gently. "You were human. Humans don't bring her back." "No," she said, meeting his eyes. "But it can stop you from losing yourself too." He looked at her then, not as a stranger, not even as a distraction, but as someone who saw through him. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was fragile. And when he reached up, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear, she didn't move away. "You make it sound easy to start over," he said. "It's not," she replied softly. "But maybe that's what storms are for. They force you to stop running." Their eyes held for a heartbeat too long. Then the power flickered back on. The moment shattered. By morning, the sky was clear, washed clean, pale gold spilling through the windows. Clara stood by her bed, staring at her packed suitcase. Reality had returned. Ethan was by the window again, in a crisp white shirt, every trace of last night's vulnerability tucked neatly behind his composed exterior. "Your flight been rescheduled," he said, checking his phone. "You'll be boarding in an hour." "Right," she murmured. He turned to her. "About last night." "You don't have to explain," she said quickly. "It was just two people stranded in the same storm." He studied her face. "Is that what you think it was?" "Isn't it?" she asked, forcing a smile. "You don't owe me anything, Ethan." He exhaled, his jaw tightening like he wanted to argue, but didn't. "I'll call a car for you," he said instead. Clara nodded. "Thank you for everything." She turned to leave, but before she reached the door, he said quietly, "Clara." She stopped. "You said storms force people to stop running." "Yeah." Then maybe this one wasn't an accident. Her heart caught in her throat. She wanted to believe that. But the world outside the suite, the real world, was waiting. She gave him a small, sad smile. "Goodbye, Ethan." "Goodbye," he whispered back. Outside, the city glistened from the rain. Clara watched the sunrise through the car window, her reflection ghosting across the glass. Her chest ached, but there was something new under the ache, something alive. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was running. 1 week later, Clara sat in a small cafe, typing on her laptop. She applied for a new job, written an article, and for the first time in a long while felt proud of herself. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. "You once said storms make people stop running. How do you feel about coffee when the weather's calm?" Her lips curved into a slow smile. "Send me the address, Ethan." Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it finds you on a night you never planned for, in a storm you never wanted, and in a stranger you were never meant to meet. But that's what makes it unforgettable. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, comment on your favorite moment, and subscribe for more unforgettable love stories. Because sometimes, all it takes is one night to change everything. Thanks for watching.